All right, guys, hey, and welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee. We are glad to have you today. We are super excited because over the next couple of episodes, as we enter kind of the holiday season, it's a great time to start thinking about how you give back. And we're bringing on a couple of different organizations to share their story about how they give back and how they contribute to our community. Again, here at the Economic Alliance, we really do kind of have a trifold relationship between the community, government, and the organizations that serve the community. And so you guys are here to join us today. We are here with Terence Narcisse, is it pronounced Narcisse?
Narcisse, yeah.
Narcisse, and then Traci Dillard, both from the East Harris County Empowerment Council.
That's
so we are excited to have you guys today. And for our audience today, we're going to be talking about what you guys do. We're going to share a little bit of information about how perhaps you could even get involved, and then really tell a little bit about your backstory and really the impact that you've been able to have. And so why don't we start with Terence? You're the founder, CEO, started this thing. You got a really cool story about how it all started. Why don't you share with our audience a little bit about where you guys came from and how it all started?
So in 2008, I had a traumatic incident. A childhood friend of mine was tragically killed in a head-on collision one morning while going to school. Near the end of January. And so a few days later we had the services, and the pastor was asking at the service, what will your legacy be when you leave here? Didn't know anything about a legacy or what that meant. I just knew that, when it's my time to go, like I want to have a service like his. People were everywhere, hundreds of people there in Bear Station, neighborhood of Crosby, Texas. And so people were just talking about how he made a difference in their lives, from church to school to the community, and just to see such a gifted person pass away so young was obviously devastating, because at that point, I didn't know that young people could pass away. And so going back to the takeaway was about a legacy, and thinking about what would people say about me when it's my time to go. I took that to heart and began thinking about what that could look like. And then quite naturally, as an 18-year-old, thinking logically, well, what or who do people talk good about? Well, people who volunteer.
Right.
And so I started volunteering in the neighborhood, looking at quick projects, cleaning up the cemetery, and doing other community projects, and then it kind of just stuck. And so from that point, I began, I'm already a first-generation college student at University of Houston, and began thinking about like some of my coursework, of how does that actually align, because here's a huge university, they have to have something on nonprofits, and sure enough they did. They had a full certification. And so as I was able to grow and continue volunteering and leading projects in the community, I was able to match practice and theory to kind of increase that impact and really drive home the point of you don't have to be an old person to actually make a difference in your neighborhood.
Right.
You can do that at a very early age. And so that's been kind of the story of how we got started, continuing to develop those relationships, bring in resources, and connect the community has always been something that we've been, as an organization, proud of, thinking about ourselves as individuals and with ideas of how the world should be, and then driving that forward as much as possible to increase impact.
Wow, at 18.
18.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, most 18-year-olds are trying to figure out, like, what are they going to do? What are they going to have for lunch today? And you're trying to figure out how to leave a legacy, man. That is unbelievable. And now you went on to go in and get educated from a nonprofit perspective. I mean, you didn't just take, I'm going to go do a little something about this and try to make a difference in the community and then run with it. I mean, you essentially went on and really formed a footing to stand on, right, from your background. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, again, just wanting to be the best, because my mom always said, whatever you're going to do, be the best at it.
Right.
And so I take that to heart, to where anything that I invest time or talent in, I want to give it that 100%. And so and just to kind of go back, it was never meant to be this big, to be honest with you.
Right.
It was really supposed to just be like this social project of like, hey, this would be fun to do. And so it became a hobby. I still remember coming home in the kitchen and telling my parents, I want a career in nonprofit. And then they look up and they're like, that means no money. You can't live on the couch forever. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work, but I feel like this is something that I could actually be good at. And so from there, going back to University of Houston, it was a full certification, volunteer management, financial accounting and management, intro to social work, program development, how to raise funds. It was all of these different things that, in the thinking to kind of get you into the right headspace of how to actually manage a nonprofit. And so at that time, I really didn't understand that a nonprofit was a business. We had a whole lot of passion and very few dollars, enough to where that you could literally put the $5 that you had in your bank account or in your pocket. It was never, again, supposed to be this big. And so we just began reaching out and thinking about looking around the community. Well, what is it that we have the power to move the needle on? And so if it was providing, school supplies for kids at back to school, if it was helping senior citizens for Christmas, if it was providing food baskets, if it was bringing in colleges and universities just to give people access so that they can become aware of these resources that are already afforded to people across Harris County, but for some reason they just didn't make it its way out to the east, and so that became the problem that we were seeking to solve around whatever we did, because a nonprofit is a business and you have your mission and your purpose and all those different things, but looking at what problem that we want to kind of stake the flag in and say that we own this, it was bringing that awareness and those resources and the access to those resources and opportunities into East Harris County, the unincorporated parts, because a lot of times our community before now really got swallowed up into that East Houston area, and it's like, okay, well, this is East Houston is there, we're a little bit more east, and so even talking with people thinking about, oh, well, you all in the East End, I'm like, well, the East is not the end and the end isn't the East, it's a little bit more out between 610 and Baytown. So
Right. Yeah, and it's its whole sub community, right?
Yes.
And things that need to be done. As you were talking, I was thinking about I just how many people. We always talk about place this episode in somebody's hands. I can tell you right now, every parent driving in that's listening to this on their way to work, when they get this episode, they're going to figure out somehow how to have this episode on when they're picking their kids up later today, because that's an inspirational story, man. And
Thank you.
It really is unbelievable.
It really is.
You probably don't get a chance to pat yourself on the back about it, but I see a book in your future, man. I think you're gonna have to write a book. So,
Hey,
Traci, talk to us a little bit about how you guys are involved. You use the word empowerment, and I think before the show you were sharing with me a little bit how you guys do that. Talk to me about some of the community impact, how you guys are evolving to kind of meet the community. He told me kind of where you started. Now you can maybe tell us where you're at today.
absolutely. One of the things that we have just recently done are community conversations. It's great to say that we are a nonprofit and we're here to assist the community in all their needs, but how do we determine those needs?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to be doing fruitless activities that are not benefiting anybody. So we actually hosted community conversations in each of the areas that we served, and we were asking the attendees, were the residents, what do you worry most about here? What are the top things on your list that you want assistance with? And we have 5 programs that we work within, and we want to be able to address your needs. If not through those programs, then let's move the needle forward, like Terence said, and let's start thinking, how can we address that? What can we do? Because again, we want to make sure we're doing what the community needs. And the actual communities themselves are a little more savvy these days. Nonprofits are no longer the tin cup on the corner type people. We're actually out doing fundraisers. We're doing planned strategic fundraising. We're targeting specific grantors or donors so that we do have the funding. Like Terence was mentioning, you could have very few dollars, but the more impact that we're faced with, the more dollars that we need, obviously. So having those community conversations has really allowed us to make sure that we're on the right track.
Yeah, and specifically who you serve. You were talking a little bit earlier about some of the folks that you're really empowering. Tell us about those.
So one of the particular programs that we have through Learning and Leadership is we offer a Community Builders Academy. It's a fantastic program that allows folks to actually learn more about their community through enrolling in a 6-month class. They do need to commit to 6 months of finding out the government surrounding your community. Who are those officials? How were they elected? What is the election process? If you have a complaint, where do you take it? If you want to make change, how do you do that? And upon graduation, they actually have a cornerstone project that they pick up, and that could be doing something in the community to make change. One group that we have that just recently graduated even created a nonprofit. So sometimes it's extending ideas that they may already have, but it's empowering them with the information to go out and do more, to be an extension of East Harris County Empowerment Council. Because again, we are only one nonprofit, but the more people that we can educate in the community, the more voices and the more hands that we have outside.
I love that. I love that word of empowerment, and I love what you were talking about giving people a sense of purpose, maybe when they've moved past waking up and going to work, providing for their families, especially as I was thinking about just this transition that people are going from the baby boomers. We have more people entering retirement today than ever existed, and we were talking before the show. If you're not growing, you're dying. And so for a lot of folks, if you're not empowering yourself to get engaged and find something to give you purpose for that next step in your life, that's when people start withering away and they start falling apart, and things, illnesses creep in. All that stuff happens, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that's because they lack a sense of what's going to get me up and out of bed today.
What is their passion?
How am I going to go make a difference?
And then the odds of finding someone else like Terence, it's, imagine if you were 18, 19 years old looking for an outlet, and there was an outlet.
Right.
And somewhere where you could be so much more enriched than what you were previously.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important to note that the idea of empowerment is that we're not giving power to the communities that we serve. We're activating the power from within,
right,
and helping people discover that you already have power within you, but it may not be, activated yet. And so we want to cultivate that power. So that if you are an 18-year-old person that wants to make a difference, if you are a 48-year-old person or a 78-year-old person, there are programs and activities that you can become engaged in and throughout East Harris County, because Traci mentioned the community conversations, but it's also important to know that in this post-COVID society or world, that the problems and the challenges of the families and the communities are super complex. And so one organization can't do that work alone. And so that's why we have a collaborative model to where we are like the PayPal, if you will, of nonprofits. We will collaborate with anybody. We're not Visa or MasterCard, and we don't really see ourselves as having competitors. We really see ourselves as complementing other organizations' missions to bring them into East Harris County, because this is not about us being the top name at the, in the banner or the logo or whatever. It's about, well, what do we, the collective we, have the power to do together by joining forces with organizations like the local YMCA or a food pantry partner or a local church or a school, but looking at how do we connect and convene to then increase and 10x that impact by just us coming together to get to know each other and the value that we all provide for the communities that we serve, because we're all serving the same people. But if everyone's operating in a silo, it gets very hard very quickly to where and operating in a non-systemic structural way, that's where that competition does creep up of, hey, I need these resources, as opposed to what can we do together and still meet all of our goals and objectives together.
It's all one community, right?
It's one big community.
Yeah, the world would be a better place if we thought that way, right? Now, talk to us about corporations. How can corporations come along beside you guys and create more of an impact in the community?
I think it's not to oversimplify it, but joining forces and partnering up with us. For us, it's important that corporations know that this is not about a money play, that we want more money to do this or to do that, and we want this bystander effect of them giving us money. We go do the work and come back and say, here's a report of what we did. We want them to join forces with us to be at the table to make those decisions because we know that corporations are impacted by people. The people that are in their current workforce today, they have needs of volunteerism and finding that purpose from a retention standpoint, but also the future workforce, because you mentioned that people are retiring more than ever before, where we have over 60,000 future workers for these corporations, and that we really want them to be engaged and at the table to help make those decisions, to get into the classroom where they have the chance and the opportunity to help change the narrative and provide a lot more practice. Because if many people are just like me, you go to school and you learn all these things from a book, and then you get out to the real world and it's like, well, what is, vocabulary, plays,
Right.
not so great of a role, or the chapter summary. That's not really how the world works. And so marrying again that practice and that theory, but if corporations are there to begin thinking about, well, what does the next 10 to 15 years of my workforce look like, or what do as a corporation, as a corporate citizen, do we want our impact to be, and what does that legacy look like being in the community? So it's much more than just writing a check, because many times what we find is that and again, not to put this down, but the corporate social responsibility goes beyond athletics and sports. Because what we're also finding is that the number of students that are coming out of being released today in our society have very little skills in terms of soft skills, or the comprehension and the reading and the math is really not there. And so we see that corporations can play a very big and powerful role in helping that next generation of workers really understand what it takes to be great at an individual level, and that'll bubble up through society. So Traci, you have anything to add to that?
No, actually, I think you covered, corporate social responsibility wonderfully, and it is more than just money, exactly like you were talking about. And, that's why we try to offer a robust volunteer program, too, for all ages and all different types of activities. It's not just coming and sweating,
Right.
standing outside and giving out food and stuff. There's a number of really impactful programs that we design around those needs.
And for the person who may be listening to the show that owns a company and wants to get involved, or maybe this is going to have an impact with them, the impact when you get your employees engaged in the community is significant, right? Because this is their backyards.
Right.
It speaks to your organization. It tells the story that you care. And there's a difference between being a company that strokes a check and puts your name on a banner,
Right.
or being a company that strokes a check, puts your name on the banner, and then plugs your people in.
Right.
When you plug your people in, that's where you're going to get the lift inside the organization. That person actually feels like, hey, my company does something different. It's easy to stroke a check. I mean,
Right.
I hate to say that, but for a lot of companies I've learned it's easy to stroke a check. But to plug in requires actual effort, commitment, and really it goes all the way down. Because that guy working on the line level at the refinery or at that position, he doesn't know that check got stroked. He doesn't know that. But when he does find out that, hey, that park in his backyard is doing something, or hey, this company, we're going to go in on Saturday and we're going to come in and do something really cool and put some houses together, or go feed some people, or do things like that. That says, okay, my company cares.
Yes.
Well, then I think that talks to the level of investment on the people side. And philanthropy, involves people and money, and helping to kind of really again increase that impact outside of, as you mentioned, it's easy to write a check, but hey, can I allow my workers or my workforce to go and talk to kids who want to be them in the future, to help put something in their mind of them asking, well, what is it like to go to work? What skills do you need? Do you use math? Do you use geometry to again make the world come alive in their minds through
Right.
career day or advisory councils, or just having those a professional mentor. But on the people side, that's really what we're talking about, of how the corporations can really drive the change. Because at the end of the day, if nothing changes, and we're really looking for corporations that really are thinking about this differently to solve major problems. By plugging in on the financial side, on the people side, just really to look at how our organization that we're a part of, can also impact their company culture for the better as well.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Well, as before, so because I want to make sure we have time to cover everything, let's talk a little bit about events. Traci, you got some stuff that's coming up in the next
We
few
absolutely
months?
do. We always have things that are coming up.
Perfect.
So one of the great things that we get to do working within the community, we just recently hosted with collaborative partners that were engaged in this back to school backpack initiative. Over 1,000 students were assisted with backpacks. That's phenomenal. We're very excited to be able to promote that. But upcoming for the Thanksgiving period, and we say that because not every family or not every culture celebrates Thanksgiving.
Right.
So we try to make that distinction by saying it's just a holiday. And one of the things that we have is called Hope for the Holidays. And it will be, again, promoted through our collaborative partners that have already jumped on board. There will be families that receive turkey vouchers and or turkeys themselves, and then others that will receive the voucher that goes along for additional food items. And so that you can find more information on our website, which is www.eastharriscounty.org. And then also we have Unforgettable Christmas Experience. I have not gotten to experience one of these yet, but I've heard so much good about it. And so actually the Unforgettable Christmas Experience is for high schoolers aged 15 through 18, and it's the opportunity to tour a college campus, to attend a college sports game, to have someone take you on a shopping spree where you can actually pick out something for yourself, and it's a financial literacy class
wow.
that you have before, so you can make wise choices when you're on your shopping spree. But those are usually about 100 students from the area that are selected for that. It's I hear that it's a phenomenal experience and opportunity for a lot of the students.
That sounds awesome.
And so what really captivates me about both of those programs, especially that one, is that for the first time, many of the students are leaving the community and going somewhere else.
Wow.
When they attend the college campus for a tour, when they're going to a basketball game of the University of Houston Cougars, it may very well be the very first time they've left the East Harris County area.
That's crazy.
And that is. Right. And so think of the memories that will give them. It may even inspire some, one, two, hopefully all of them to think these are possibilities that are open to me now beyond my current environment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, and then something fantastic that we as an organization will be embracing in January. We're actually for the first time ever going to have a kickoff campfire campaign. We've always been grant funded at East Harris County Empowerment Council, but for the first time ever, we're going to engage the community, the workforces, the individuals, the large and small companies alike, and gonna try and go out and do a campaign.
Wow.
And that will allow us to grow as an organization, but also to meet more of the community needs and to be out there doing more collaborating and get our name out.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
A lot of really cool stuff you have coming up. And again, for those, you said the website a minute ago, not to be confused, she said Dub. She's from East Harris County, that's WW. Depending on your audience, you started saying Dub. We're from Houston, so you can't say that. Or we can, but you're throwing the wrong stuff. I'm like, I hear it. Dub.
All right.
Exactly. So let's just talk about, as we wrap up, I think there's some things. I mean, you guys have been around for 14 years. Now, you started like you said, I thought this was going to be a project, ended up becoming my life's mission now, like it or not. So now you're in it, and you built and you are definitely leaving a legacy. There's no doubt about that. So congratulations on that. But there's a part of that has to inspire, continue to push you forward every day. There's got to be things that you guys are doing to continue, because this is not easy work. I've got a lot of friends that are in nonprofits. I'm actually about to go head over and meet some folks that are friends of mine that are in nonprofits nonprofit after this, and the work that they do. When you see it behind they're working with limited resources, they're working with limited support, and then they're out trying to get that, and it's no easy task. So maybe, Terence, for those that are listening that maybe need a little inspiration, you could share some of the things that have led to your success over the last 14 years in trying to build what you guys have built.
I think the number one thing is the ability to develop relationships, and mutually beneficial relationships, and understanding the power of networking and connecting, but not connecting with the idea of to get something in return, but connecting just for connecting's sake. I've met people all across the world from multiple places, and just thinking about all of the people that I've come in contact with that I can call upon should I need something. In the event that I do need something, or if that they can call upon me in the event that they need something, and looking at it from like when we find resources or grant opportunities that don't align with our mission, but sharing those out with other organizations or people, or hey, I meet people who are interested in coding or science or whatever, and just kind of really pushing them resources, articles to help them fuel their passion. I really call it being others directed for the sake of others, but really investing in people and then allowing people to invest in me to get that greater return. Because at the end of the day, if you really are truly caring about the impact that you want to make, you really have to be outcomes focused and others directed for the benefit of other people, and then also thinking differently. Not seeing everything in terms of a win or a loss, but looking at it for the long-term goal of, hey, this may lead to something, and just being open and thinking differently about the world and how the world shifts and turns. I was at a dinner last night sitting there with high school students talking about how their parents want them to do this and want them to do that, and I told them, all that's fine, but if I would lean on the side of not listening to your parents if it's something that you're really passionate or pulled forward to, because many times what I see with many of my peers that their parents want them to do this or do that, and they're bottled or bottlenecking in situations where they're making a lot of great money and they're miserable. Right. And so pushing kids and people into the idea of what are you passionate about? What do you feel called to do? What is your purpose? And then how do you actually feed that? Because that's what's going to take you through life. There's a wise quote that I have on my board that says, if you don't have a passion for it, you won't earn a profit from it. And so that's a powerful quote that I live by, thinking about, how do I activate and help other people pursue their passion and their purpose by really, pushing them forward and, just being naturally curious and thinking about, how can I help this person that's sitting in front of me through my network and my gifts and my skills for their benefit, and hoping that they will be able to pay that forward. And then last but not least, but thinking about that continuous growth and improvement. You can always learn something new. I tell people each and every day you should learn one thing new about yourself or about something else that you can then take and put in your toolbox to then move that forward. Because that's like, as you just mentioned, if you don't grow, you die. Right. And so there's another powerful quote that says either you can have growth or control, but you can't have both. And so I'm all to the end of grow, and a lot less control, but being trusting of the people and the team that you built around you to move you forward, move the organization forward, because that's what this is all about. At the end of the day, I don't really care about my name being on the billboard or flashing lights. I do care about the East Harris County communities being respected and connected in a way that that systems and people and things are changing that will far outlast my lifetime or the lifetime of the organization, because who knows where things are headed. But just looking at if East Harris County becomes actual thing, that's really what this is about.
Beautiful. And I love what you said about that. And I think even for the parents that are like, wait, he just said, tell my kids not to listen to me. But the reality is, and as we drive towards these things, I'm in the wealth space, and I deal with a lot of people who've had a lot of success. But what I found is, regardless, and there's an actual amount of money, they say that anything beyond $70,000 a year, there does not really increase your level of happiness. Right? And so the reality is, I meet people with tons of money, and I've met miserable people with lots of money, and I've met really happy people with lots of money. And what most of them identified is that the stuff isn't what does it. It's are they plugged into their passion? A really wise man once said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but forfeit his soul. Yeah. And so, and I think that guy probably put some of the best quotes out there. And so I would argue that what you're saying is the absolute truth. If you're chasing the world and you're chasing everything that it has to give you and you don't have a soul, it's not a very fun-loving place to be. Right. But if you're living within your passion and you're getting to bring that, deliver that every day, then that's an absolutely great place to be. So, and I've got to experience both. So, and then Traci, obviously you've had some success and there's some things that are relevant to your ability to go in and serve here in the organization. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that have led to y'all's success too.
So I think it goes back to what Terence was saying. It's about connecting and networking, but not forgetting those connections. We meet you today, Jason, and tomorrow we may not need you, but maybe further down the line you need us, or we need to build a rapport between us. A project comes up and we want to plug you into it. It's never forgetting who you've met, especially if it's 14 years deep in the organization and you're beginning to go different places. There were people and events that got you there, right. And it's never forgetting where you came from. Yeah. And so one of the things that I kind of go by is service to others. And I think we all probably belong to organizations, be them a religious affiliation, a service organization, whatever, but it allows us to have an outlet for ourselves. And I truly believe that East Harris County Empowerment Council is one of those service organizations too, that many people could contribute their time, their passion could be recognized through doing this.
Wonderful.
And again, any age. So.
Awesome. With that, guys, I think we're nearing the end of the show. You guys have given us a lot of great content. Again, for our audience, the website, just in case they want to get plugged in.
www.eastharriscounty.org.
Fantastic. What a great way for you to stay plugged in. And for our audience, we would encourage you, as always, we want you to pass this show forward. Again, we're bringing another guest on after this show and for next week's episode. And the goal and the objective is to help you get and find ways that you can get plugged in. This is usually the time of year where people's heart and their spirit's going to get called to do more, and they're going to find ways that they can get involved. And this is a great organization if you're here on the east side of Houston, or if you know somebody in this area, to make sure that you get them plugged in. As always, you can stay connected to us. You can go to allianceportregion.com. That's our website. Underneath there's a tab for marketing, social media, and inside that you can subscribe. We would ask you and highly encourage you to subscribe to our channel so you'll get updates when our new shows come out. And you can follow me on LinkedIn and stay plugged into me with any questions, guests, or anybody that you'd like to have join us on the show. And as always, we thank you for having you today on the Gulf Coast Growth Show, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.